you're into cards and collectibles, Sunday, November 2nd, 10 to 4 at the East Aurora Main Street Middle School. The Buffalo Bills and Sabres alumni guests. All of this will benefit the East Aurora Save Our Sports effort. Our buddy Teddy Haynes is putting this together. So Sunday the 2nd, go out there if you're into collectibles. We've got Jay Skurski as my guest. We're talking Buffalo Bills. Okay, the New York Jets. If I'm the New York Jets, if I'm Rex Ryan, I am licking my chops. I got a home game against a team that can't block, that can't protect the passer. That's right up Rex Ryan's alley.
That's exactly right. They're going to pressure and pressure and pressure some more Kyle Orton to make him prove that he can beat them. And I'm not sure that he can, but the Jets do have some issues in the secondary. They don't have Darrelle Revis, and a lot of I thought their pressure packages were built around being able to keep two cornerbacks out on an island. Also with Cromartie, who's not there anymore either. They're starting a safety at cornerback, so they've got some issues there. But I think that's the game plan for this. Not only for the Jets. I mean, this would be the game plan for any defensive coordinator, is to get as much pressure on this Bills offensive line as you can. And Rex Ryan's one of the best, maybe to ever do it in terms of coming up with pressure packages. So it'll be a big challenge for the Bills this week.
Okay, let's talk about new ownership. Terry and Kim Pegula. Terry Pegula was awarded the game ball, one of the game balls Sunday, because it was his first victory as an owner. And there's a lot of buzz, a lot of talk. The news had Tim Graham had a great interview with Russ Brandon that was in Sunday's paper. Of course, Russ isn't going to comment much. I don't think they know. What do you think is going to happen out there? You think there's going to be changes under Pegula ownership?
I do, and I think that they're going to go back to their time with the Sabres and maybe learn from some of the mistakes that they made when they were hesitant to make a lot of big changes. Obviously looking at Darcy Regier and Lindy Ruff, and that proved to be a mistake to leave them on. So I do think that the next 9 games here are going to tell a lot of the story. I mean, if the Bills are able to make the playoffs, then it would be hard, I think, to bring about sweeping changes, but I do think that the Pegulas are going to look at what happened with the Sabres, what they went through, and they're going to try to bring in an outside football voice, whether it be as a consultant or whether it be as a that's when it gets interesting, though. If they do bring in that consultant type, a guy who's been around the league. I know Ron Wolf's name, for example, had been kind of rumored a couple of weeks ago. If they bring in a guy like that, what does that mean for Doug Whaley? If Wolf is the guy that makes the decision ultimately on Whaley, then absolutely, I think anything is on the table in terms of changes, and rightfully so. I mean, if this team can't make the playoffs, it'll be 14 years in a row. 15, excuse me. It has been 14, so it would be 15 straight years. That's a good time at the end of this year to bring in a new staff. You don't have a franchise quarterback in E.J. Manuel. We're uncertain, I guess, would be the kindest way to put that in terms of whether he is the franchise at quarterback. So you've got an opening there. You've got a new owner who you asked what's going to be different. Well, there's not going to be any spending limit now. In the NFL, there's a salary cap, of course, but when it comes to coaches, you can pay them whatever you want. And if that's where he decides that he wants to make a big splash, whether it be through a veteran, seasoned executive, or whether it be through a big-name coach, I think that's one area where you could see Pegula put his mark on this team.
Of course, the triple-decker home run grand slam would be Bill Polian. He did that when he brought in LaFontaine, and Ted Nolan last year was euphoric. Of course, the LaFontaine thing didn't last. But, there's been talk about, and speculation, well, he won't bring in Bill because he's too close to the current regime, which I disagree with. Bill, nobody that's here today, other than Jim Overdorf, was part of, and Bill Munson, but they weren't in the football side of things, were part of the Polian regime. I don't think Bill Polian has, and let's face it, Bill Polian had no love lost for Jeff Lippman. He came around and recreated and recrafted his relationship with Ralph Wilson after he gotten fired. But I don't think you need look no further than Bill Polian, who's still very much into what's going on in this league today. Yeah, and if you look at the Polian tree, if you will, Tom Telesco out in San Diego is having a heck of a start to his career as a general manager. David Caldwell in Jacksonville, not as great wins and losses wise, but you can see the pieces that they're building down there in Jacksonville. So those are two really talented guys who Polian has a relationship with. You don't want to get too far down the speculation road, but those are pretty interesting names. So clearly there's guys that have worked under Polian in this league who have gone on to some success, and he has an ability to identify talent like that, as we've seen with those two examples. Well, time will tell, and we'll know soon enough. I know one thing: if the Bills don't make the playoffs, and the Sabres obviously look like they're going to be back to where they were last year, being the owner of these two teams come April will be an interesting. I mean, it's great that you own them, but nobody likes to get beat up in the press, and sooner or later they've got to turn this around so that they can start getting
the trade that Doug Whaley made to give up a first-round pick next year for Sammy Watkins, if that doesn't pay off in a playoff berth, to me, I think is a fireable offense, because that is a steep, steep price to pay for a wide receiver, and Watkins has looked very good at times, but that move was made to support E.J. Manuel, who's no longer the quarterback.
Well, I also question how they're using him in the offense, because they've done nothing other than use him as a standard wideout to get the ball in his hands. We heard all these stories about doing the types of things that he did in college, where they pretty much recrafted the offense. But hey, Jay, we're out of time. It's great having you on the show. We'll have you back. Why? Because you're a great writer and you're Polish.
So
we've Art Wander made me.
We got to stick together.
We got to stick together. Right. Jay Skurski from the Buffalo News. Of course, he does a great job covering the Bills. We'll be back to wrap up all sports Western New York right after this.